Hi Nightmare fans, and welcome back to the second installment of Nightmarish Fables. Hope it doesn't scare you too much. Puerto Rico, a Spanish-speaking Caribbean island with beautiful landscapes and with the most famous waterfall on the island called La Coca Fall. And moreover, this island's best known for its beautiful beaches that surround the island itself. A very small frog called El Coqui and the world's most single dish radio telescope called the Arecibo Observatory. As always, as there is good, of course, there is the bad. There is the legend of El Chupacabra, a strange being that kills for blood, the gargoyle, a two-legged winged creature that only comes out at night. But our story is a not so well-known legend, a tragic romance called Cueva Ventana. In 1680, there was a man by the name of Don Julian Correa who owned a very prosperous hacienda cafetalera. In fact, it was the most prosperous one in the area, called El Consejo. But Don Julian's greatest pride was his beautiful daughter, Salomé, which was 17 years old. Every afternoon, Salomé would walk her horse to Abacoa River, where she walked along to admire the beautiful landscape. She would end the walk by sitting under a 100-year-old tree. One afternoon, as she often did, she was getting ready to go to the river when her father started to insist she take along Don Ramon Rivera, the son of a rich landowner that her father hoped she would wed someday. As they rode along the path, they reached their destination, and as they dismounted, they were walking along the banks of the river when Salomé spotted a lovely flower that was floating on the water. Excitedly, she reached over to grab the flower, not noticing she was standing on wet gravel stones. She slips into the river, which has rapid moving waters. She calls out for Juan, but Juan was frozen in his tracks. He then shouted he would go back to the hacienda for help. But the river is fast moving. Will she be there when he gets back? Salomé thought there wasn't any hope for her. It would mean certain death for her. As she was going under the water, she felt strong arms around her, pulling her out. She opened her eyes to a blurred male figure, but it wasn't anybody she knew. When her vision cleared, she saw his honey-colored eyes with radiant brown skin. She fell in love. She quickly asked him who he was. Aruaca answers and replies, I am Aruaca, the last of the Taíno warriors, son of Urayoan and Cecilia, the Spanish Gualdos of the Abacoa. After he answers her question, he rose and lifted her up and carried her to her father's hacienda. Not knowing the implications of this, upon arriving, Don Julian had his men shoot at Aruaca, while other men took Salomé from his arms. Aruaca, being a warrior by nature, tried to defend himself. To no avail, they overpowered him. With hate in his eyes, Don Julian wanted to kill the young warrior. But his daughter got in between her father and Aruaca and told her father with intent and anger that Aruaca was the only one to save her life when she fell in the river while the coward standing next to him ran off. Her father's hatred for the Taínos had to be put aside for now, and with reluctance reached into his pocket and pulled out coins as a form of payment for saving his daughter. Don Julian threw the reward at the Taíno warrior's feet. Aruaca leaves the hacienda, leaving her father's coins on the ground. Salomé returns to the river on multiple occasions, looking for the Taíno warrior she fell in love with. But it takes many nights before her young warrior would show himself. When she finally saw him, he was confessing to her that he was always watching from the window cave, or Cueva Ventana. He also confessed that the day she fell into the river, he was also watching from the cave. He, without hesitation, jumped from the cave opening to the water below, knowing he could die. From there on, they met every evening. They grew more and more in love with each other and swore eternal love. Although they both knew they were from totally different worlds, how can they continue on this path? But Salomé's father became increasingly suspicious, so one afternoon he followed her. Then he saw the unspeakable. He saw his daughter with her arms around this Taíno Indian man. He went rabid and took out his gun and started to shoot at Aruaca. His beloved daughter once again took it upon herself to defend the one that she loves, only to get stricken down by a bullet to her abdomen. With shock, Aruaca instantly knew what was needed to be done in this very instant. Tragic as the situation was, he was watching his beloved dying at his feet. The only way he figured could save her is to pray to his gods in the cave. He carried her limp body up a cliff, his destination the cave, which was at this point a few feet away. There was a spring in the cave where Aruaca cleansed her wounds in hopes to revive her, and miraculously it did. Salomé was so weak from all the blood lost, but Aruaca convinced her to agree that he should go tell her father of her reviving from her wounds. Aruaca took off his necklace as a form of protection for her. As they were saying their goodbyes, Salomé promised to wait there in the cave until his return. Aruaca took off with lightning speed with excitement in his heart to let Don Julian know of his daughter's betterment. Once again, Aruaca, not knowing the consequences of arriving at Don Julian's hacienda, he arrives. Don Julian was alerted to Aruaca's arrival. The young warrior was shot on sight by Don Julian himself. Now he will never know that Salomé was alive. As Salomé prayed over Aruaca's necklace, using it as a rosary, it is said she lived 150 years, feeding on memories of her warrior and the spring water. She died of a broken heart. Now they say that Salomé and Aruaca walked together through the dark corridors of the cave. I hope they're holding hands.